Picture this. It is Sunday night, and you are lying in bed scrolling through your banking app. Your paycheck just came in on Friday, and somehow there is already barely anything left. Rent, groceries, that unexpected car repair, a dinner you couldn't say no to. You tell yourself this month will be different, that you'll finally start investing like everyone keeps talking about. But then you see those investment articles throwing around terms like diversification, asset allocation, and market timing, and suddenly you feel paralyzed. You close the app? Maybe next month, right? Here is the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to admit. Most people aren't failing at investing because they're bad with money. They're failing because they've been sold a complicated system designed to make them feel like they need experts, fancy apps, and thousands of dollars just to get started. Hey everyone, I am Bob, and I've spent years obsessing over personal finance and breaking down exactly what works for regular people trying to build wealth without already having wealth. I share straightforward, no-nonsense strategies that actually move the needle on your financial life. If that sounds like something you need right now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It helps more people who are stuck in the same place find their way out. Let me introduce you to a concept I call the threshold investment framework. It is dead simple. Most investment advice assumes you have disposable income sitting around waiting to be invested. But the reality for most working people is that you are living right at your financial threshold, where one unexpected expense throws everything off balance. The threshold investment framework acknowledges this reality and builds your investment strategy in 3 distinct phases: foundation, momentum, and acceleration. Foundation is about creating your safety buffer so investing doesn't feel like gambling with rent money. Momentum is about consistent micro-investments that build the habit before they build wealth. Acceleration is where compound growth actually kicks in, but you only reach it by respecting the first 2 phases. This isn't revolutionary finance theory, but it is honest, and honesty is what has been missing from most investment advice you've heard. Let me show you exactly how this plays out in real life. Take Sarah, a 28-year-old marketing coordinator making about $52,000 a year. She kept hearing about investing in index funds and how she was losing money by waiting. So she opened a brokerage account and dumped $2,000 in, money she'd saved over 6 months. 3 weeks later, her laptop died. She needed it for work. She had to sell those investments at a loss and pay a fee to get her money back quickly. She felt like a failure, but the system failed her. Not the other way around. She skipped the foundation phase. Now compare that to Marcus, who makes about the same amount. He started by saving just $500 in a high-yield savings account as his emergency buffer. It took him 2 months. Then he set up an automatic transfer of $50 every 2 weeks into a low-cost index fund. Some weeks it felt pointless, like throwing pennies at a mountain, but after 6 months he had about $650 invested, and barely noticed the money leaving his account. After a year, it was over $1,300, and his emergency fund had grown to $1,500. When his car needed repairs, he didn't touch his investments. That is the difference. Marcus built his foundation first, then created momentum without disrupting his life. Here is another example that shows the long-term impact. Consider 2 friends, both 30 years old. Jennifer decides to wait until she is making more money to start investing. She tells herself she'll start seriously at 35 when she expects a promotion. David starts immediately with just $75 a month, which is about $18 a week, less than 2 coffee shop visits, assuming a conservative 7% average annual return. By the time they're both 50, David will have roughly $46,000 from his investments. Jennifer, even if she invests twice as much, $150 monthly starting at 35, will only have about $34,000 by 50. David's extra 5 years gave him $12,000 more dollars despite investing $15,000 less total. The math doesn't care about your intentions, it rewards action. Now I know what you are thinking, Bob. I literally don't have $50 or $75 extra each month. I am already stretched thin. I hear you, and that is a valid concern. But let me challenge it gently. Most people don't have a shortage of money problem. They have a visibility problem. Money disappears into subscription services you forgot about, convenience purchases that feel small but add up, and lifestyle inflation that happens so gradually you didn't notice. I am not saying you are irresponsible. I am saying the system is designed to make your money leak out in ways that feel inevitable. Start with a 1-week spending audit. Write down every single dollar. Not to judge yourself, but to see where your money actually goes versus where you think it goes. Most people find at least $40 to $60 monthly that is evaporating into things they don't value. That is your investment seed money. Another objection I hear constantly. What if the market crashes right after I invest? What if 2026 is a terrible year to start? Here is the reality. Trying to time the market is a losing game. Even for professionals who do this 80 hours a week. A study covering data from 1950 to 2020 found that if you invested at the absolute worst time every single year, right before every market crash, you'd still have positive returns over a 20-year period. The real risk isn't market timing. It is time out of the market. Every month you wait for the perfect moment is a month of potential compound growth you are giving up forever. The threshold investment framework protects you from this anxiety because you are investing small amounts consistently. If the market dips, your next investment buys more shares at a lower price. That is called dollar cost averaging, and it is your friend. So what do you actually do right now today to set this in motion? Let me give you 5 concrete steps that you can start implementing this week. Step 1. Open a high-yield savings account if you don't have one already. Regular savings accounts pay almost nothing, like 0.01%. High-yield accounts are paying between 4 and 5% right now. Your emergency fund should at least keep pace with inflation. This takes maybe 20 minutes online. Put your first foundation phase goal here, which should be $500 to $1,000 depending on your comfort level. Step 2. Automate a small weekly or bi-weekly transfer to that savings account. Make it small enough that you won't miss it. $25 twice a month is $50 monthly. That is your foundation phase in 10 to 20 months. The key is automation. If you manually transfer money, you'll skip it when life gets busy. Automation removes willpower from the equation. Step 3. While building your foundation, open a brokerage account with a reputable low-cost provider. Look for ones with no account minimums and no transaction fees for basic index funds. You are not investing yet. You are just setting up the infrastructure. Read some basics about index funds, which are essentially baskets of stocks that track the overall market. You don't need to become an expert. You need to understand that you are buying tiny pieces of hundreds of companies, which spreads your risk. Step 4. Once you hit your foundation savings goal, keep that automatic transfer going, but split it. Half continues building your emergency fund toward 3 to 6 months of expenses, which is your ultimate foundation goal. The other half now goes into your brokerage account to buy a simple broad market index fund. Something that tracks the total stock market or the S&P 500. This is your momentum phase. You are building the habit and letting compound interest start working. Step 5. Increase your investment amount whenever you get extra money. Tax refund? Put half in your emergency fund and half in investments. Got a raise? Increase your automatic investment by even just $10 or $20 monthly before you adjust your lifestyle to the new income. This is how you transition from momentum to acceleration without it feeling like sacrifice. Here is what most investment advice gets wrong. It focuses on optimization before you've even started. People spend months researching the perfect portfolio allocation, debating whether they need international exposure or small cap value tilts, and they never actually invest a single dollar. Perfect is the enemy of good, and good is the enemy of started. A simple total market index fund will outperform the vast majority of actively managed funds and complicated strategies. Your job in 2026 isn't to become a financial wizard. It is to build a system that works automatically while you focus on living your life and growing your income. Let me tell you what happens when you actually do this. In year 1, it feels like nothing is happening. Your investment account grows slowly, and you'll be tempted to think it is pointless. That is normal. You are building the foundation of a habit that will define your next 30 years. In year 2, you'll notice the balance growing faster than your contributions alone would explain. That is compound interest waking up. By year 3 and 4, you'll start seeing real momentum. Your investments might equal 2 or 3 months of your salary. That is when the psychology shifts. You stop seeing investing as deprivation and start seeing it as building your freedom fund. By year 10, if you've been consistent with even modest amounts, you'll likely have a portfolio worth more than a year of your salary. Maybe significantly more depending on market performance and your contribution increases. This isn't about getting rich quick. This is about never being 55 years old, exhausted from decades of work, and realizing you have nothing built up except more years of mandatory work ahead. That is the real cost of not starting. Not that you'll miss out on becoming a millionaire, though that is possible too with time and consistency. The real cost is remaining trapped in a cycle where you can never say no to a bad boss, a terrible job, or a life situation that is draining you. Because you have no financial cushion giving you options. The year 2026 can be the year you look back on as the turning point. Or it can be another year of telling yourself you'll start when things are more stable. But here is what I've learned after years of studying this. Things never feel stable. There is always a reason to wait. A bill coming up, uncertainty at work, something happening in the economy. People who build wealth don't have fewer obstacles. They just stop waiting for perfect conditions that never arrive. You've made it to the end of this video, which means you are serious about changing your financial trajectory. That puts you ahead of most people who just complain about money but never educate themselves. If this framework made sense to you, do me a favor. Hit that like button so this reaches more people who need to hear it, and subscribe, because I am going to keep breaking down exactly how regular people build real wealth without gimmicks, or get rich quick schemes. Drop a comment and tell me what your biggest obstacle to investing has been. Is it fear, confusion, or just feeling like you don't have enough to start? I read every comment, and your honesty helps me make better content for you. Remember, the Threshold Investment Framework respects where you actually are right now, not where some financial guru thinks you should be. Foundation, momentum, acceleration, build them in order, and 2026 becomes the year everything changed. Not because you won the lottery or got some massive windfall, but because you finally started playing the long game that actually works. Your future self is watching what you do next. Make them proud. Let's get started.